Minkah Fitzpatrick, Rashan Gary, some huge names could be on the trading block for the San Francisco 49ers in the 2026 offseason. We'll go through the names. Who should the 49ers go after on today's Locked On 49ers?
You are Locked On 49ers, your daily San Francisco 49ers podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome to Locked On 49ers. Brian Peacock and Eric Crocker at BD Peacock at Coach Crocky. Thanks everybody for making us your first listen right here on the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Love and appreciate all of our everydayers out there, and thanks so much for tuning in and making Locked On the number one sports podcast network. Today's episode of Locked On 49ers is brought to you by FanDuel. Use your profit boost on an NBA future now and get entered for your chance to win a trip to the NBA Finals. Play your game with FanDuel, the official sports betting partner of the NBA. All right, Croc, there's a lot of big names that are hitting the trade market. I think we're going to hear some reports leaking out just about daily here with some players that are going to be available. Some of them you could really see coming from a mile away. Some of them might just get released completely like Tyreek Hill, and you don't even have to trade for them. They're just free agents, and they're available. And so teams are going to float these ideas out there because they want to be able to trade a player, get the money off the books, and potentially let another team play a player instead of, taking on more dead money, or at least get a little something of a draft pick if they're, if a player got too expensive, did not quite fit into their plan. So there's a number of names we can talk about here coming up in this offseason. The biggest one, though, Croc, and actually Adam Schefter, because we were a little bit joking talking about the Max Crosby trade the other day on Winky Wednesday, and he dropped his little teaser of his track, which apparently he's talking about buying a house in the Bay, not the Bay, which is something that some people call Las Vegas. I've never heard it.
I've never heard that. So did you go back and listen and see if that's what he said? 'Cause I just have never heard that.
No, I never even heard
it. I also am never, ever around people who are actually from Vegas. So maybe that's something he picked up from some locals. Yeah. I thought most people live in like Paradise or something.
No, yeah. It should be the Hay for Henderson, Nevada, because that's where they all live, in Henderson, right? So I've never heard the Bay. So maybe Max Crosby not buying a house in the Bay. He's buying one in Las Vegas. But Adam Schefter's saying, maybe a couple first round picks. Maybe there could be something there. I'd be shocked if Max Crosby gets traded. I don't think he will get traded, but Justin Jefferson, we're not going to talk about those names. I don't think those guys are really for real on the block, and the price would be astronomical for those players. But there are some very real players, some talented players, Croc, that will be on the market, that are available right now. If the San Francisco 49ers, John Lynch, want to get bold, want to start dropping some draft picks, and maybe not even first-round picks, where we're talking about mid-round picks, potentially even some day 3 picks to bring in some players, maybe some conditional draft picks or some veteran players at some positions of need for the San Francisco 49ers. And I know that you can't wait to talk about this guy because he's been your guy since he was playing that star position back at Alabama. He was your guy in the 2018 draft. The 49ers went with Mike McGlinchey. A few picks later, the the Miami Dolphins drafted Minkah Fitzpatrick, traded him to the Steelers. Steelers traded him back to the Miami Dolphins. In fact, both of those players, Jalen Ramsey and Minkah Fitzpatrick, that were traded for each other last season, might both be available. And who knows? Maybe the Niners can get both of them in. But Minkah Fitzpatrick, the latest name, who is reportedly available, and the Miami Dolphins, after one more year of Minka, they just don't like having Minka around. They get him, and then they want him out. So Minkah Fitzpatrick on the trade block, reportedly officially. Is he a player the 49ers should go after, Croc? Because this time it's not going to take a first-round pick to go get him.
The funny thing, going back to that 2018 draft, I believe it was, we were there together. We were there.
Yes.
We were at the
at Yancey's in San Francisco.
Yancey's Saloon or something like that, correct?
Yeah.
And
shout out Dylan DeSimone. I haven't heard from Dylan DeSimone in a long time. He fell off the face of the earth. I think he's still kicking around San Francisco somewhere.
Yeah, I think he
Yeah,
got
that was a
married.
fun night.
Yeah, he said, forget all this football stuff. But when we're all in there, Winky was there as well. This is years prior to me coming on Locked On 49ers. But when the commissioner fixed his lips to say, I said, Minkah Fitzpatrick, we got my guy. And he said, Mike McGlinchey. So yeah, it didn't go the way I thought it potentially would. But got a chance to right your wrong. Now he's a little bit older, and he's not quite the same guy, but he's definitely an instinctual player. And when I look at what the 49ers need on the back end, they need an instinctual safety. Right now, they got some guys that can, do a little do cool here, a little there, a little coverage play here, get beat here, not make any plays here. Minkah Fitzpatrick, still at this age, the game's slowing down for him. He is a playmaker, maybe not as versatile as the kid that was coming out of Alabama, right? The guy who could play that star spot for you, the guy who could potentially play corner for you as he did with Miami. Didn't quite like it. He asked for a trade, but he definitely could play that safety spot, and it's all-pro safety there. So I would love for the 49ers to go get Minka. I don't think it would cost an arm and a leg to trade for a guy like him. I would hope that it would be some type of, if you can think back, I'm kind of dating myself here with this reference right here, but Rod Woodson going to the 49ers, and he had a successful season, even at a time where people thought a little bit older at that time. I think Minka could be in that type of point in his career, but still can be impactful for a team that has Super Bowl aspirations.
Look, I haven't gone back to the tape on Minkah Fitzpatrick's 2025 season. I know it was a season that the Miami Dolphins did not enjoy and ended up getting their GM and coach Mike McDaniel fired. But according to Pro Football Focus, he had one of the best seasons of his career, and he was one of the best safeties in the NFL, defending the run and defending the pass. And safety, Croc, is a position that ages pretty well in the NFL. He was 29, I believe. Let me double check on the age of Minkah Fitzpatrick. I think he's 29 going into his age 30 season. Is that correct? Yeah, 29 years old, Minkah Fitzpatrick, and he will be turning 30 at some point in 2026. And still a very good player, but he's going to be a free agent soon. And the 49ers, if they, or any team that would trade for Minkah Fitzpatrick, would take on about $15 million in salary. Now you could, re-up him. You could restructure it, lower that deal, push some money out to the side. The 49ers are one of the top 10 teams in cap space going into the offseason. They're not going to spend all of the money under the cap because they like to roll it over. But that soft reset last year put them in a little bit better of a situation this year. And any big moves they make this year, they can push some stuff off into the future where they really have even a lot more space, a couple of years down the road. So Minkah Fitzpatrick, man, he's a really good football player, and he could potentially fix a lot of what ails the 49ers on the back end and just be a solidifying force back there at that free safety spot, and then let the other guys battle it out for that other role in the secondary. Whether it be the big nickel, big kind of sort of dime linebacker / safety role that the 49ers showed a little bit last year, and of course the strong safety spot. But Minka's that guy. He can play the deep half. He's smart. He can come down. He can cover guys. He's just a complete player. And he's still, last I watched him play, he's still a dude.
And for the most part, it doesn't miss a whole lot of games. So last year, he missed 3 games, but he got 17 games there, 10 the season before that, but then 15, 16, 16. So he's playing a lot of football, playing a lot of games. That's something that the 49ers need as well. Like, they need guys that are going to be on the field. And I think with a guy like Minkah Fitzpatrick, we don't have to worry about, is he getting better week to week? It's like, oh, no, you got Minka. Your safety position is solidified. You're good there. You don't have to worry about him. He's out there. He's playing. He's going to buy into whatever the defense is. 49ers are going to build a defense essentially kind of around him. And now you get back to having all-pro caliber players at every level of the defense. The only thing is some of the all-pro players that they have coming back next year, Nick Bosa, torn ACL, is coming off of that. Fred Warner coming off of a snapped ankle. Minkah Fitzpatrick, healthy. So I think if it's something that's, even if it's the 49ers have multiple round 4 picks, correct? Was it like
Yep.
3 of them?
They got 3 fourth-round picks. They have their own and 2 comp picks.
I feel like you could give up a couple of those and potentially land Minkah Fitzpatrick at this point in his career, especially with a team like Miami, who may be kind of doing a revamp or rebuild a little bit.
Absolutely. And Croc, there's something to. So I think a good example of this, and it's not even an NFL example, but remember the Warriors traded for Jimmy Butler, and Butler is sort of an aging player, and there were a lot of folks that argued was like, well, look at what his numbers are. Look at what Andrew Wiggins' numbers are on a nightly basis. Are you really upgrading that much? And then you see Jimmy Butler play, and you're like, he gets those numbers differently. He changes the lineup when he's in. It's not about what the numbers are. This is a different player. He's a special player. He's a special talent. When you have that sort of a special player, it's different than just adding a good starter back there. And potentially that's something that Minkah Fitzpatrick could bring to the 49ers defense. You know, are you adding more than a good starting safety? Are you adding somebody that can bring, that can mind meld with Fred Warner and it really makes everybody on the defense better? That would be what you'd be looking for if you're trying to bring in somebody that's expensive at the safety position like Minkah Fitzpatrick. Minka's your guy. I know he is. Here's another name, though, at the safety spot, Croc. So do you remember one of our favorite safeties in last year's draft that slid down to the 3rd round to the Atlanta Falcons out of Notre Dame?
Starks.
No, Starks was the 1st round guy.
That was the Georgia guy. So not the Georgia kid.
He didn't like Starks as much.
Watts.
Xavier Watts out of Notre Dame. He went to Raheem Morris's Atlanta Falcons, which was interesting and had an awesome rookie year. Took the ball away just like he did in college. But it was interesting because they already had a ball hawking safety in Jesse Bates. And according to some reports, that means that makes Jesse Bates potentially expendable. So could Jesse Bates be a name? Rashan Gary and more names that could be on the trade block for the San Francisco 49ers to go after before they even get to free agency, before they get to the NFL draft in the 2020 offseason next. This episode of Locked On 49ers brought to you by FanDuel. Have you ever wanted to experience the NBA Finals live and in person? Well, FanDuel is giving you the opportunity to turn that dream into reality with their NBA sweepstakes. Here's how it works. Use your profit boost on any NBA future, and you'll automatically be entered for a shot to win an NBA Finals trip for 2. That's right. Flights, tickets, the whole experience. If you've already been looking at the board, thinking which team might make a deep run, this is the perfect time to lock it in. I love futures this time of year, whether it's picking a team to win the championship or you're grabbing a conference title. It adds that extra layer of excitement every game down the stretch, and helps to have a little something on it. And now, not only can you pick cash, but you can also get cash with your pick. You can also get sent to the NBA Finals. So visit FanDuel.com to get started. Use your profit boost on an NBA future and get entered for your chance to win a trip to the NBA Finals. Play your game with FanDuel, the official sports betting partner of the NBA. Thanks again, everybody, for making this your first listen here on the Locked On Podcast Network, the #1 sports podcast network. And the offseason does not exist for the offseason doesn't exist for the Everydayer Club because there is no offseason. There's no offseason for us as hosts of Locked On 49ers. That's why we do it. We are here for you every day throughout the offseason, and the Everydayer Club is for you. Join the group chat and talk 49ers year round. Get every episode of the show ad-free on all your favorite podcast platforms. Head to lockedon49ers.supercast.com or hit the link in the show notes to learn more about the Everydayer Club. So, Croc, what do you think about Jesse Bates?
You talked about Xavier Watts.
Yeah.
Now, after he got drafted, that was who I was really high on. You guys go back and watch the film. I was like, oh, this is the guy. He didn't run very well. It made him drop. And when I say run very well, I think people were just expecting him to just run better, but he still ran in like the 4.5. So it wasn't like he was just
he was near 4.5 flat. And he just wasn't really fast. He wasn't really big. And just he didn't give enough.
I had a little bit of bad body too. You look at
Yeah.
it was one of those guys. Maybe you could have just kept your shirt on. It's like you didn't really see like a muscular build. It looked like Eric Crocker a little bit, but dad bod going on. But 5 interceptions in his rookie season. I mean, that would have cleared anybody on the 49ers.
So Jesse Bates then is potentially available for a team to go trade for. He's actually a year younger than Minkah Fitzpatrick, going into his age 29 season. It would be a similar cap hit for the team that trades for the 23-year-old safety. Looks like 2026, a contract year for Jesse Bates, holding a $24.7 million cap figure. So there's reason to consider that it is a fluid situation heading into the offseason, that the Falcons hold 18.25 of dead cap on the deal next season. And that would mean the team that trades for Jesse Bates would only have to pay $13 million of that. And so that's where the Falcons are with Jesse Bates. And so if not Minkah Fitzpatrick, maybe Jesse Bates. It's a deep safety class too, Croc. Is this maybe the year to go into the draft at safety and not do anything crazy before the draft?
Well, we talked about some of these guys that we like, and I mean, McNeil Warren's kind of at the top of that list with his ability, ball hawking skills. I did talk about how, like, instincts look like he's living a little bit more off of athleticism, but I saw some stuff where I'm like, oh, that's instincts plus athleticism. So right now, if you were to tell me he goes out there, he runs well, measures in at what they say he is, which is 6'2", 200 pounds, 205 pounds, I think that's a guy where if he's there at pick 27, you got to go. You got to take him. You got to take him. Now, if he is who I think he may be, I'm not sure he'll be there at pick 27.
He's big. He's fast. He's going to run well. I'm seeing him climb. I think Daniel Jeremiah had him at like 13 to the Rams in his mock draft. Right after Caleb Downs. Yeah, the safety from Ohio State. Caleb Downs, right? Yeah. I had him at like 8. So, but I mean, that's a deep safety class. You get a guy on day 2, maybe even a guy on day 3. 49ers have been pretty good at finding safeties.
They've been finding the guys that can play.
Yeah.
But are you finding, and again, even with Tyler Hufanga, terrific. I mean, now he's a 2-time All-Pro, so it's hard to argue against any of that. But I still, when I watch him, it's like there's some things that he still leaves you to be desired about with just his style of play. He's terrific. 2-time All-Pro. Can't argue with that. But I think they've gotten play out of guys. Like, you can start for the 49ers. They've done a good job of finding that guy mid to late rounds. Who's the guy, though? Like, who's the star? Who's the guy where it's like, wow, we hit on this guy? They were willing to let Tyler Hufanga, injuries, stuff like that, but it's like, you can walk. We're not going to fight to keep you. I know money and things like that, but we're not going to fight. We'll let you walk. When you get hit big on a guy that you feel like, I can't live without him, like, they haven't had that guy at safety in a while.
It's almost like day one, Kyle and John got together and said, safety is not the place we're going to spend money. It's not the place we're going to spend high draft picks. Because that's the way they've operated for almost 10 years now. And so I'd be shocked again if they draft a guy in the first round. I would be shocked. And maybe we should be shocked if they spend a lot in trade to bring in a veteran player, or a lot in the free agent market as well. And shocking, Croc, that a guy that played like John Lynch did as a safety is a lot better at finding those box safeties and the wild men coming up to support the run. He's better at finding those guys than the center fielders.
I just saw some highlights of John Lynch. I don't even know how it came across my timeline or feed. I think it was even on Instagram, not even on X. He was knocking heads off.
Oh, dude. Yeah. I mean, he came.
I remember it. I remember. It's not like, John Lynch was playing for the Broncos when I was in high school.
Yeah.
So I was watching John Lynch growing up. But, just sometimes you need a reminder. It's been about 20 years. He was knocking heads off.
It's an era thing, too. Like, they'd probably try to turn him into a linebacker these days.
Oh, yeah, 100%.
Right? Yeah. Budda Baker is kind of in the same boat. Unlikely the Cardinals would trade Budda Baker to the San Francisco 49ers, but, we've seen a lot of these players that kind of get that balloon year at the end of their contracts, and teams start to think, maybe we could trade this guy away. Maybe we'll have to cut him, or maybe we'll have to restructure. Or maybe if we don't want to resign a guy, and you get to the last year of his deal. So that's what a lot of these trade candidates start to look like, Croc. I want to go to another big name that could potentially be available that I think has 2 years left on his deal. That is Packers edge rusher Rashan Gary. It says here, according to Sport Track, Gary is set to enter year 4 of a 5-year, $107 million contract. Remember, he had that monster year and signed a huge contract. Then the Packers traded for Micah Parsons last offseason. And so now maybe Rashan Gary's the odd man out. And he only had 7.5 sacks for how highly paid he is. 7.5 sacks would almost double the guy that had the most sacks on the 49ers last year, Croc. So it's like, one man's trash or one team's trash is another team's treasure, potentially. Rashan Gary, the deal contains an unprotected $42 million over the next 2 seasons. And Micah Parsons' injury probably means he stays put through 2026, but potentially not. He could be cut. He could be traded. And there's a world where Green Bay fields a call or two this offseason. So Rashan Gary is a name to watch out for. With the Micah Parsons injury, though, maybe they might feel the need to keep on or hold on to Rashan Gary. But that's a big name there, Croc, that could become available. Bradley Chubb is probably going to get cut. So I don't know if you need to trade from him, which leads me into some other conversations about some of these other Miami Dolphins next, Croc. But another name coming off the edge that could be available, we talked about at the trade deadline. And now that it's hit the offseason in a new regime in town, Kayvon Thibodeau, I think, is a name that would probably pop up again, potentially available. It might be a little bit expensive just because he's still on that rookie contract and only 25 years old, excuse me. Do any of those names on the edge jump out to you, Croc?
Well, the first thing I thought of when you threw out guys like Rashan Gary and even Chubb, terrific guys off the edge, but you said the 49ers need something specific coming off the edge, and you talked a lot about speed. Now, Gary was like a height, weight, speed guy coming out of Michigan, but I don't think he played quite to that type of speed, right, coming off the edge. So are any of those guys, do you think that any of those guys that you named, guys that will scream off the edge and really stress teams with their speed and bend?
It's hard to know exactly what the scheme is going to look like. I think they're going to keep elements clearly. They kept their defensive line coach, Chris Kacerek. There's going to be elements of the wide 9 in the front that they used before. So, a power end, stop the run on the way to the quarterback. But just knowing how the 49ers experimented with 5-man fronts, Kyle Shanahan himself talked about it. It seemed like he's a little bit on board with it, bringing in a guy who was running more of an odd front last year and did so with the Rams as well. And Raheem Morris, I think you just could see just be a little bit more multiple. And speed is important, but just getting after the quarterback is the thing. So you need not apply, Croc, for the job if you're not a pass rushing demon. If we're talking about, I see a lot of people put defensive tackle in the draft, and it's like, run stuffing defensive tackle, 330 pounds. No. You need not apply for a defensive line position for the San Francisco 49ers in 2026 if you are not a pass rushing demon. And I don't care if you're 290 pounds or if you're 235 pounds. Can you get after the quarterback is my only question.
Yeah. So then forget the speed as much as just get after the quarterback. And the 49ers, I'm pretty sure you talked about the sacks. The 49ers need some production there. That was bad. And even if you have Nick Bosa, let's say hypothetically speaking, you have Nick Bosa, he has a terrific season. He has his 12+ sacks that he typically gets in that range. You're still getting little to no production from the other guys. Now, maybe Bosa would have helped because some of the sacks where he didn't get, he's still pushing guys off the spot, forcing quarterbacks to kind of step up, pat the ball. Now, all of a sudden, guys are still getting sacks, but it just, you weren't getting much. I would like to see, we don't think that Huff is going to be around. Right, like just if that $17 million price tag is true, what we're hearing, I don't know if he makes it past. I mean, I'm surprised we haven't heard yet that that's going to be released.
Yeah, he might end up a Tennessee Titan. They do have a lot of cap space though, so maybe they'd be willing to pay that price for. And so that's another aspect of, okay, are you replacing that style of player? Do you need a couple of guys? You need depth. You want to build a monster defensive line. So having too many guys is a fine problem to have on your offensive and defensive fronts. The defensive front, especially bringing guys in waves and having a couple of lines of rushers. But just, replacing Huff either now or in the very near future. And also just knowing how Raheem Morris operated and seeing what Raheem Morris went after last year in the draft and 2 speed rushers. I would not be shocked if that's the direction they go, but it would have to be someone who can get after the quarterback. And I would probably lean to more the speed variety because it's easier to find that straight up pass rusher in that regard than it is to find a guy who's also big and an every down player and also a pass rusher as well. But, that would be just fine too.
This also could be the case, right? He may decide to take a restructuring deal.
Yeah. A pay cut would be the key word there.
Yeah, because that's not even restructuring, right? So
yeah.
You got to get a pay. You got to take a pay cut. Restructuring is, hey, we're gonna move some money around, and what the Chiefs are about to do with Mahomes.
They do it every year with Mahomes.
You're gonna end up paying him all that money. You're just kind of kicking the can down the road.
Right.
I don't see a scenario where the 49ers are like, yeah, we want to pay Huff $17 million. We'll just move some stuff around. Like, no, we want that price drastically cut.
All right, we're gonna move along. We got some more names on the trade block in the 2026 offseason. Are they a fit? Should the 49ers go after them next? This episode of Locked On 49ers brought to you by 5 Hour Energy. Welcome to the 5 Hour Energy Flavor Draft. We're looking at every aspect of the draft to let you know which tasty flavors are the best and which just might be sleepers. The board is set, the flavors are ready, and only one is going to take the top spot. 5 Hour Energy has a wide variety of flavors and maybe a little something for everyone. Croc, we talked about our 2 1 seeds, right? If we were ranking this thing out, and I believe it was the tropical, what was your favorite? Tropical Burst?
Tropical Burst, baby.
Tropical Burst. Yeah, the tasty caffeine with island vibes. That's right. Mine, maybe less sweet, a little more tart, pomegranate. But I want to drop some new flavors on you, Croc, that I have not had a chance to taste yet from 5 Hour Energy. How about cotton candy? Delicious swirl of sugary clouds. You got the delicious blend of rich, buttery, freshly baked confetti cake with the confetti craze flavor. And what about fruity rainbow? A bright blend of assorted fruity candy flavors, nostalgic candy bag flavor impression on that one. So some really interesting new flavors.
Not sure about the fruity rainbow.
I was thinking maybe if it was like the cereal, fruity cereal rainbow.
Like fruity pebbles.
It's the rainbow. Yeah, like that would be interesting too. But tons of flavors. Who will win? And who is the number 1 pick in the flavor draft? Find out. 5 Hour Energy. And find your new favorite flavor. 5 Hour Energy shots. They're available everywhere. 5hourenergy.com, of course, or Amazon. All right, Croc, a little rapid fire. Feel free to stop me at any time or at the end, we can just talk about some of your favorites. I'm just going to go to the positions that are quote unquote needs for the San Francisco 49ers, where there's some potentially big names available. I think safety is very interesting, especially a center fielder type, or a defensive end or a pass rusher. We've kind of gone through some of those, but what about the wide receiver market? AJ Brown. AJ Brown's an interesting one because of the contract, the way it is, and the way it's set up by the Philadelphia Eagles. It would have to be a post June 1st trade for AJ Brown, but I think they would be into it. And I think AJ Brown wants out. 29 years old, and the acquiring team would only be on the hook for $7 million of AJ Brown's contract. I don't think, people bring up the Ayuk for Brown. I just don't think anybody's going to take on the Ayuk contract. So the Niners are going to have to cut Ayuk, but AJ Brown's an interesting one. And since it's post June 1st, the 49ers can maybe go through the whole process. Maybe the draft doesn't hit the way they want, and maybe the Eagles do draft some guys, and then maybe the 49ers double back after the draft, and then that's when a June 1st type of trade starts to make even more sense, and you feel better about adding a guy then because you weren't able to accomplish everything you wanted to accomplish in the offseason, and you still do need that starting caliber wide receiver. Jerry Jeudy is on the list. We've talked a lot about Jordan Addison already, still on his rookie contract, and then a couple of first rounders from a couple of years ago, one that went a little bit before, one that went right after Ricky Pearsall in the 2024 draft. Brian Thomas Jr. of the Jacksonville Jaguars. That one might be a little bit pricey. And Keon Coleman of the Buffalo Bills. Could Keon Coleman kind of reprise that Juwan Jennings big slot role? Because I think he was miscast as a pure outside.
They're using him wrong.
Receiver. Yeah, I think he's a big slot in the NFL, Croc.
Big slot. Definitely not in the NFL. Not a guy that's just going to win on the outside consistently. You definitely have to move him to the slot, which I feel like, it could be my memory, but I feel like Florida State played him a little bit more in the slot than what I saw at the NFL level, because they had the other guy that was 6'7" on the outside doing a lot of work there. So Keon Coleman, more of a big slot, give him a little bit more favorable matchups. Not as good when corners are able to just be outside, get physical, hands-on, struggle to kind of run away from guys. And late in the season, it's like, all right, you're just going to be a healthy scratch. So you can probably get him for little or nothing. That's a good thing. But for the 49ers, definitely can fill a slot type role. And it seems like he has a good personality and the guy that's probably willing to do those things.
What happened to the 6'5" Florida State wide receiver? Didn't he get drafted by the Eagles?
That's what I said. No, the 6'7". He was like 6'7", wasn't he?
6'7", yeah. What was his name? I can't remember. Jimmy something. Jimmy?
I don't know why I'm blanking on his name. It's going to bother me
too. I'm looking at the Eagles roster right now, and I don't see the name. So, unless he was on maybe IR. Johnny Wilson. He's on injured reserve. Johnny Wilson, 6'6", 228 pounds. Has done little to nothing, I think, for the Philadelphia Eagles, from what I understand. Okay, he had 300 snaps his rookie year.
What did he do?
38 yards on 5 catches, though. 1 touchdown.
And 300 snaps?
Yeah.
I feel like that's a lot of snaps to only get like 5 catches.
Yeah. Guard, Croc. Not many guards on the trade block. Potentially Cesar Ruiz of the New Orleans Saints. I think he's played some center and some guard. I think the free agent market is probably where the 49ers should go at guard, unless they can thread the needle in the draft with one of the players we were talking about on yesterday's episode with the guy who can play guard early, then bounce out to left tackle and replace Trent Williams. But, that would mean you would have to go through free agency and then thread that needle in the draft. And I don't know if I want the 49ers trying to force a need in the draft. I think they do too much of that anyway. So free agency, I think, is the place you go to try to find your guard and lock that player in, even if it's a veteran player that's on a short-term sort of a contract, just to make sure you're set there and you're not forcing things in the NFL draft. Let's see. Any other positions you think the 49ers should be looking at in free agency, Croc? What if the 49ers...
back to the guard or in
the trade market, not free agency.
Yeah, with Cesar Ruiz.
Yeah.
I think you may get a little bit more bang for your buck trading for an interior lineman as opposed to signing one in free agency. Because we already know free agency, everything is going to be priced extremely high. You get somebody that's already under contract, you may get them a little bit cheaper.
He was a first-round guy too, Cesar Ruiz, and kind of just, I don't think he was the star interior offensive lineman that the Saints hoped they would get. Still only 27 years old. He would have a cap hit of $9.5 million for the 49ers in let's see, he has 2 years, 19 million left. So basically, $9.5 million for 2 more years. So you would get him for not just one. It wouldn't be a rental trade. It would be 2 years of a trade.
So I think that's ideal.
Interesting.
Right there for the guy, a lot of experience, not crazy price tag. Get 2 years, less than $20 million per. Because you go and sign a guard in free agency, unless it's a guy that doesn't have this kind of experience that Ruiz has, you're going to pay a lot more than that.
Are you shocked to learn that maybe the Minnesota Vikings, after signing Javon Hargrave, are willing to move on from the 32-year-old? I'm not shocked at all after seeing what he did with the 49ers. I don't know if he shut it down. He was a terror earlier on in his career, Croc. What happened with Javon Hargrave?
Oh, yeah, made a lot of money with the 49ers and just hasn't worked out quite since. It did feel like he was very kind of specific, and we talked a lot about him on that Philadelphia Eagles team where, they were loaded, and that it helps. It helps sometimes when you're playing on a loaded defensive line and you get a little bit more, a favorable matchups that you're looking for, and you're able to get some sacks off of other. Not saying he wasn't doing any of it, but getting a lot of production off of some of the other guys really helping. And now when people are asking you to be more than what you are at times, you kind of look a little bit like you're underachieving a little bit.
Here's an interesting one for you. Here's a name that's on the potential trade block list. And it's a name I didn't expect to see, Deommodore Lenoir of the San Francisco 49ers. The blurb says the entire San Francisco secondary faced injury problems and overall inconsistent play in 2025, which should force the front office to prioritize upgrades this coming offseason. Lenoir still has 4 years, $68 million remaining on his contract extension, but none of it is currently protected. $16 million locks in on April 1st with $13 million of dead cap against $8.8 million cap figure this season. The Niners probably give this one more year before considering their options. So there's kind of like a little wake-up call for Deommodore Lenoir. If he has a down year, he might be a guy that's on the way out next year via trade from the San Francisco 49ers. That's an interesting name I did not expect to see there.
It's tough. You start making some money, they're going to start making some business decisions. But Deommodore Lenoir is one of the bright spots in the secondary, a guy that, whether he has a tough game or not, he's going to come with it. And more times than not, he's going to be someone you can count on. So not a guy, at least yet, I'd even think about letting go.
I want to hear from our listeners, Croc. What do you guys think is your number one trade target for the San Francisco 49ers? Somebody that we brought up today, or maybe another player that's out there, maybe somebody that's a little under the radar. I talked about the Miami Dolphins earlier. I think the Dolphins roster is one that could be plundered. Jaylen Waddle's name was not on the list, but man, I think that's a player that could come in and not only give the 49ers something they need with a starting receiver, give the 49ers something they need with a lot more speed on the offensive side of the ball. So that's another name I think I'd throw out there. But I want to hear from our listeners. Let us know at BD Peacock, at Coach Crocky in the YouTube comments, and make sure you're all subscribed up. And Croc and I back next time. We're breaking down more prospects. Let us know what prospects you want to hear about. It's about time for another Mock Draft Monday as well. And you're going to want to stay tuned all off season long right here. Locked On 49ers.